Hello friends, welcome to Java Swing tutorial. In this video we are going to look at creating MDI application in Swing. Here you will learn how to use JDesktopPane, then you will learn how to use JInternalFrame. So these two components together will help you in creating the multiple document interface application. Here, if you see, this is our frame window. Our frame window is displaying 3 internal windows. So these, 4 internal windows. These 4 internal windows are managed by this frame window. So when we move this internal frame, it won't go beyond this frame window. So it's visible inside this frame window only. Similarly, when you minimize it, it will go and get iconified inside this frame. AWT playlist is optional, and this video assumes that we already created a frame window, and the video is available as 01 in the very first this is the very first video in this Swing series. So this video makes use of the EditorPane code we already explored in video Ash 14. So this one is optional, and here we are using the select tag and option tag which we created in video 38 in the HTML playlist. That's all here. So this one is optional. You can display any HTML content. Just to make sure you have one HTML file is ready that you can display inside the EditorPane, and this code EditorPane stuff get inside the JInternalFrame, and that's how our example goes. So once we start doing the example, you will get a clear idea of what we are going to develop here. First, we will create an instance of JDesktopPane. Then we will create JInternalPane, and when we are constructing it, we can provide a title. After that, we can make a call to JDesktopPane. We can call its add method, then pass this JInternalPane to it. So you can pass 1 to n number of JInternalPane to the JDesktopPane. So now the JDesktopPane will maintains all the internal panes added to it. So the JDesktopPane will act as a container as well as a parent for these internal panes that is added by calling its add method. So when you close the JDesktopPane, all the internal panes get closed automatically because of this parent-child relationship. Similarly, when you move the JInternalPane, it will not go beyond the frames of JDesktopPane. Similarly, when you minimize it, it won't go and get iconified in the taskbar. Instead, it get iconified inside this parent container. In our example, if you see, we create a frame window, then we employ border layout for the content, and towards the south we will add a panel. Using this panel we will set a flow layout, and then we will add a text box, some label here, then a command button that states show panel or show internal frame. let's say show HTML. So when you click show HTML, this will display multiple internal frames whenever you click this. That means once you click show HTML, it will show a static HTML content inside a desktop pane that we will add here. That means here we have to add a desktop pane. So desktop pane will be added to the center portion of the frame window. So if you see here, we have two component or container. One is panel, which we will add towards the south portion of this frame window, and another one is the desktop pane, which we will add in the center portion of the frame window. So since this is the desktop pane, what we will do inside the desktop pane, whenever user clicks the show HTML button here in the south panel, we will create a internal pane, and that pane will display the HTML content. Then we will add that internal pane to the desktop pane, which is sitting in the middle of the frame window. So once you click, it will display one internal frame here, and when you click again, it will show one more internal pane. So this will be our desktop pane. The desktop pane will manage one or more internal frames. In our case, we are going to display a HTML content inside this internal pane. So our example will show the static HTML content, but you can design it in such a way that you can browse for a specific HTML file and then display that content dynamically, so that when HTML pane is displayed, you can show different HTML content. Our example will flow like this. So first we will create the JFrame window. After that, we will create a panel and we will add it to the south portion of the frame window. Then we will create the desktop pane and we will add that to the center portion of the frame window. So this will be the desktop pane. After that, we will create our JInternalFrame. This internal frame will create a EditorPane to display the HTML content. And when a user clicks the show HTML, we will create the internal pane, then we will add it to the JDesktopPane. So when we are creating, during that time itself, we will make use of JEditorPane and show the HTML content. After that, we will add it to the desktop pane. Once you add it to the desktop pane, the HTML content will be shown inside the internal pane. This will display as a window inside the desktop pane. So when you add one or more internal frame, all will get shown inside this desktop pane, which is housed in the central portion of the frame window. So this will be our desktop pane. So this is the panel which we will add towards the south portion of the frame window. And when user clicks this show HTML, we will show these internal frames. So each window here inside this desktop pane is an internal frame, and it will make use of the editor pane to show the HTML content. So here if you see, user will provide the title, then they will click the show HTML and you can see the title is displayed here, and then the HTML content is shown inside the editor pane of the internal frame. So the relationship goes like this. Internal frame is contained inside the desktop pane, and desktop pane is added to the frame's center portion of the border layout. So the border layout is the one which manages the content of this frame window. Now it's a demo time. We will go to Eclipse and start developing this application. So I opened here the Java Oxygen, Eclipse Oxygen. Here we have two Java class files. One is main entry.java. Here we are creating the frame, swing internal pan, and we provided a title swing internal pan example, and we make visible to true. Then we changed the set bounds to display somewhat bigger window, and this frame window is managed by the border layout. So how to create frame window is explained in the very first video of this video series. That's a part of the prerequisite here. Now if I run this, you can see this is how our frame window displays. Here we are adding some private members. First we add a JText field from javax.swing package. This text field will go towards the south of the frame window. Next we create a JDesktopPane from javax.swing package, and this desktop pane will go towards the center of the frame window. LX and LY are to decide the position of the internal frame window that get displayed inside the desktop pane. Now we have 4 internal members ready. Our next goal is to create the south panel. First we create JPanel from javax.swing package. Then we create a J button and we labeled it as a show HTML. After that we create a label. Then we add all these 3 components to our south panel. So we call this as a CMD panel, and we are adding label. So it will show document title, then a text box, text field, and if you see the JT text field is created here as a member, which can contain 25 characters. And finally we create a button, and all we are adding it to the south panel of our frame window. So we are adding the command panel that contains 3 control. Now let us run this and to see how it looks. So towards the bottom you are seeing a panel that contains 3 control: J label, J text field, and J button. So the south panel is ready and it is added to our frame window. So now desktop pane was already created as a member. Now we will add it to the center of the frame window. So we will change its background color also. So if you see for DT pane, we are making call to set background. Then we are using light gray color for our desktop pane. Then we are adding the desktop pane towards the center of this frame window. So this desktop pane will take care of JInternalPane. So we can create one or more JInternalFrame, and we can add it to this desktop pane. The desktop pane will act as a container for those JInternalFrame. Using this desktop pane, we can show multiple internal frames. Now we will run this example once, and you can see the desktop pane is added here, which contains a light gray background color, and towards the south we have the south panel. Now we will go ahead and create a custom class which will derive from JInternalFrame. Here I am creating a new class, and the class will reside inside the coding example package. And we name our class as a HTML window. Then superclass should be JInternalFrame. So we pick the JInternalFrame as the superclass. Constructor, we just need a title. Okay, let it be in checked state. It will provide all the superclass constructor, and we will remove all except one that suits our need. Here HTML window is derived from JInternalFrame, and we just need this constructor, and we can remove all other constructors. So this class is to show the HTML content. So our JFrame contains a button, show HTML. Once you click this, we will create this HTML window, and we will show some default HTML here. And size of this frame, internal frame, we will manage from here, from the JFrame, because the JFrame is housing the desktop pane. Desktop pane is sitting in the middle of this JFrame. So just like what we did here, we get content pane of the frame, then we will set layout. The same way for JInternalFrame also, we are getting the content pane, and then we are setting a border layout for this one also. So as already told, size we will manage from the JFrame. The JEditorPane was already explained in our previous video. So learning the JEditorPane is part of the prerequisite for this video. Here, if you see, I will go through the JEditorPane quickly. Here we create JEditorPane from java.swing package, and we enable this JEditorPane, and then we create a JScrollPane, because inside the JEditorPane we will display the HTML content, and we need scrolling support. That's why we are creating a JScrollPane, and we specify dimension for the scroll size. After that, to our scroll pane we specify the preferred size, and we specify this scroll size. So this will tell how big our scroll pane will be, and that scroll pane will take care of displaying the editor pane. Next we create a URL. So I am importing it from java.net, and HTML window, class getSource test.html. So here is our test.html. This is also part of the prerequisite, and so I'm not going to explain the HTML content. You can, if you need, you can look at this creating this content, which is part of the optional prerequisite. Let me first display that in the Google Chrome. So this is the HTML content, which has some form. We don't need to worry about submitting this, because here our goal is to display some content on the JEditorPane, and that JEditorPane is housed by the JInternalPane. So test I kept here in the generated path. Class paths are generated here through the Eclipse IDE. So these are all the Java file and the class files generated by the compiler. In the same location I kept test.html. So now the URL is ready. Then for our JEditorPane we are setting the page, and which is nothing but our HTML page. Here you can even use HTML from the internet site also. IO exception, importing it from java.io package. So now our internal frame is ready, and if you see here, this JInternalFrame is creating an EditorPane, and the EditorPane is housed by the JScrollPane to provide scrolling support for the EditorPane. Why? Because it may display some bigger HTML content. So after providing the scrolling support, we are adding this scroll, which takes care of displaying the JEditorPane to our internal frame. After that, we set HTML page, static page, to the EditorPane. And when we make a call to set page, Java expects some exception to be handled, so that we handled here. So internal frame is ready. Now we will go back to our JFrame, and if you see, the south panel is sitting ready, and once you click the show HTML button, it should launch the internal frame. So since this action should take place when we hit the button, btn show HTML button, we have to handle the action handler for that button. So I'm clicking btn show HTML. Add action listener, new, spacebar, control space, adding the anonymous inner type. So here the skeleton for the handler is ready. So we already kept our x and y location for the internal frame as 0. First we will increment that, so that internal frame will be displayed from some distance in the top left corner of the desktop pane. Remember, the desktop pane is in the center of the frame window. That means in the border layout center, and here we are incrementing it to 10,10. That means width and height. So that decides the top left corner location. So if this is this white area is the EditorPane, from here x10, y10, and the frame will be displayed at some offset from the top left corner. So our internal frame, which takes care of displaying the test.html content, is expecting a string title, so that we pass to the superclass. So whatever title we give, the JInternalFrame when displayed shows that title. So here, that's the second part. Here we are creating the HTML internal window. This is the HTML window instance, and we name that as HTML internal window. And if you see title, we are passing it from the text box, which is added towards the south. This is the text field, and if you see, we added it to the south panel. So we are getting the text from that text box, and we are constructing the internal window. So after our JInternalFrame, because it's derived from JInternalFrame, we named it as a HTML window, because for this internal frame we are providing the HTML content support. So we named it as HTML window, and once the HTML window is ready, we are adding this HTML internal window to our desktop pane. So desktop pane we already created. Then we added it to the center portion of our frame window, and now we are creating the internal frame and we are adding it to the JDesktopPane. Now to our JInternalFrame, we are setting the set closable to true. That means the internal frame can be closed once it is displayed. Then of course we need to show the internal frame. That's why we are making call to set visible true, just like how we shown our frame window. The same way we are showing this internal frame by calling the set visible and supplying the boolean true. After that we supply the location, which is 10,10. Initially it is 0. Now during the action performed we incremented it 0 to 10. That means LX and LY. Now we'll hold X and Y coordinate location of 10,10. So finally we are making call to pack method. So this will decide the size. So if you see here we doesn't provide any size. Of course we provided size, that's for the scroll, but for internal pane we are asking the pack method. So this will take care of displaying the internal frame, its content and its title. Once everything is bring together, it will pack it in the sense it will keep all the content tight and decide the size. Now let us run it once and see how it works. So you can see this is how the internal frame window will get displayed. Since we set closable true, we can click this icon and we can close it. Let me show it again. And if I click multiple times, I can show multiple HTML window here. And if you see here, the desktop pane, this gray area which is housed inside our frame, is displaying 5 internal frames. Here we provide the same HTML content, but when you are opening it, or here itself you can provide a browse button and browse for a different HTML file. That means now our desktop pane is showing multiple document. Here you can assume that it is showing multiple HTML document in a different window. Now let me close some window here. 4, 5, 3. Let me keep only 2. And if you see here, if I move it, the window doesn't go beyond this desktop pane. Even it is not coming here. Why? Because the desktop pane is added towards the center of this frame window, and that one is managing this HTML content. And if I move my frame will move desktop pane, and the desktop pane will take care of moving the content along with its client area or the content area. Alright, now let us look at other property of the internal frame, and if you see, this shows the HTML content. So these internal frames are displaying here as a static window. I cannot resize it, I cannot minimize it or maximize it. Now let us provide support for those. So we have to make a call to some setter functions, and if you see, from internal window we are making call to set resizable. This will allow resizing the internal window, I mean the JInternalFrame. Next we are providing support for maximizing and restoring the internal window. Set iconable, that is useful to minimize the internal window. Now let's run this once again. So now we have two documents, and this time if you see, we have a maximize button. Now I am maximizing the first document, and you can see first document is occupying the full area of our internal frame. So I can restore it to the original size, then I can maximize the second document, and now second document is showing in the desktop pane by occupying its full visible area. Once again, I am restoring it here. Now this one is to minimize the window, and if I minimize it, you can see it goes and sit inside the desktop pane. Now I can even open my third document. Since this time we provided the resize support, we can even resize the document. That's all here. And if I close my main window, it will close all the child that is maintained by the desktop pane. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.